I would now like to invite Suranga to go next and talk about how they're disrupting a very traditional Sri Lankan industry with an inside-out approach using Sri Lankan values, and he's chosen the value Prajava and creating shared value across the chain. People-centric operation with value trickling down and IR 4.0 ready. Suranga, all yours.
Thank you, Roshani. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get the technical stuff sorted first. First up, let me congratulate the Chamber, especially for selecting a theme, the theme People-Centric Economic Revival, which I think is one of the most, at a time, I think, where Sri Lanka really deserves a drive or a lead or a journey towards a high-income nation. So congratulations, Chamber, for selecting this very valid theme. And I also thank, on behalf of English Tea Shop, the opportunity given to us to share our story. I only hope that, the story that I share with you now will have something useful for you, especially in the way we built an international brand through a very stubborn, process. As I begin, let me draw your attention to the fact that Sri Lanka needs to fix our external sector performance. I think listening to many presenters from the morning, I don't think there is any debate in the fact that Sri Lanka needs to fix our external sector performance. From migrant workers to apparel to tea to tourism to many other agriculture industries and services sectors, we are all battling with the same fundamental issue. And that is the fact that we are adding very low value to our unique resources, including to human talent. And this graph that's in front of you, put forward by the Harvard Growth Labs, which measures export complexity, shows that all of our core merchandise and service exports are ranking amongst, are identified as ones which lack differentiation and low value addition. So the ones in beige and the minus numbers are the sectors where we have found to be, low in value addition and thus transferring low profitability and knowledge sharing, through the supply chains. In that light, I can't really blame the central bank when they say that if Sri Lanka wants to move up the ladder of value addition, that we need to move out from garments and tea. But I also want to say that there might be a real oversimplification of problems here when we look at sectors like this. And my talk today is to possibly show that there might be ways in which we can modernize, we can be more productive, profitable, and we can differentiate even in some of these traditional sectors. Otherwise, changing sectors haphazardly might be like changing pillows to get rid of a headache, a very apt, uniquely sustainable statement put forward by our forefathers. Let me jump to the English Tea Shop story, as that's what I've been assigned to do today. My understanding of branding and high value add, the initial bit, I want to focus on the need for compromises, and that's exactly what English Tea Shop did. So when we launched a value-added tea export business in 2001, that first phase was all about bringing it up, making it 100% value-added, and making it fairly profitable, and even bringing it up to a very, a premium level, an award-winning level before we killed it. That's how we would sum up our first phase from 2001 to 2010. We had very high export earnings when we killed this business in 2010, which was more than twice the national value-added average at that time. And we've been, battling with that fact. The industry value-added average has been at the same, level for the last decade or so. Even, as we speak, pre-COVID, we're at the same level. This first phase saw us doing about 70 different brands to about 35 countries, mainly focusing on premium sectors. We had about 70 brands altogether. Out of them, 6-7 of our own brands, and we were focusing mostly on the sophisticated premium sectors. We had every reason to be proud because the value add was high, and the Made in Sri Lanka tag was very exciting as well, because when we walked across these premium aisles, We were very proud of the fact that, these very extravagant or, brilliant packaging with great teas were packed by a Sri Lankan company. And, obviously that was a little naive, situation when we look back at that whole thing. We didn't have great, compromises at that time, because we would pack anything to any customer in any packaging as long as we could source anything, because we believe that Sri Lanka is the tea country, and we were experts in tea, so we shouldn't say no to anything. But what this resulted was, by 2010, we realized that we had gotten into a little trap, like the middle income trap that Sri Lanka is, have evolved into, where we were, focusing on conflicting value propositions and an entirely operationally ineffective value system. And I think the biggest problem we had was one of competitive convergence, because we were doing what everyone else was doing. And to put it into perspective, I think we called ourselves a company with 100 strategies, whereas we should have one. I think we had 100 strategies to run the business. So despite us growing and being profitable, we realized that the margins would erode over time because of this competitive convergence. But looking back at our situation now, and looking back at, from where we are now, I don't think we will ever get to we would have got to this position if not for the great learnings of those formative years. Imagine 9 long years of value addition, branding, and international business. And this is what we launched next. So the list of things that's in front of you are things that inspired us. This is what was happening in the marketplace. I think we learned these very quickly. And especially because we were looking into markets that were very sophisticated and markets where Ceylon tea had very little recognition. So we saw a growing base of youngish middle-class people who were very mindful, in their appetite for things. They were mindful for sustainability. They were mindful for ethicality. They were mindful for provenance, and they were leading well-being-led lifestyles without a guilt on their or a burden on their conscience. I think the trade saw this happening, and they saw that this middle-class, mindful consumer base is going to be the future. So the trade channels moved out and established clearly and differentiated themselves from the mass-scale supermarkets and the low-end discounters, and established a pool of channels that would select brands and suppliers who tick the sustainability boxes and the ethicality boxes and the whole series of things that these mindful consumers were looking at. At the same time, I think the brands that got onto this bandwagon rode that wave of sustainability, went on more ecological means and biodiversity, focused on plastic free, carbon neutral, and a whole gamut of things to take advantage of this marketplace. And the real smarter brands and businesses also married some of the environmental challenges into their strategy and drove down their costs. So not only were they differentiating their offering, they were doing it with a low cost. So for the first time, the world was seeing low cost differentiation in a massive way from brands that married sustainability into the core. We also saw what is now better known as Industry 4.0, the wave of digitalization, the initial years. And also we realized that this new digitalization was going to be a little kinder to humans. In a way, I think the way we read it, it was about using technology to build platforms to help communities to evolve and innovate together. A real convergence of physical, biological, and digital spheres. So what did we learn out of all these changes happening around us in 2010-11? Was on one hand a challenge, but obviously an opportunity. We saw that most brands that tick these boxes were owned by overseas operators, and they passed very little benefits upstream to producers. And I think we heard that from many speakers, not only today, but I think this is a common fact. We also knew that backing supermarket brands or mass scale brands and joining them in their sustainability agenda was going to be a little challenge, because specifically from a tea point of view, by that time, which is valid even to date, the everyday tea prices have been brought down to such low levels that you couldn't really demand for a larger piece of the pie, even if you differentiated through sustainability measures. And the global giants have gotten into this bandwagon and had made sustainability also too mainstream, if I may put it that way. If there was one thing that was missing in this whole gamut of things was the ethicality. I think a lot of these brands and businesses were not really being seen as ethical producers or ethical brands. And that is exactly what English Tea Shop wanted to focus at that phase. So we thought we will go out to the market as the most ethical tea story and pitch to the more discerning, the more exclusive marketplaces where the mindful consumers would shop at. So as a summary to this section, I would say that what we were looking at was not giving away or charity or being ethical for nothing, but a new form of capitalism with ethics at the center, at the core. I also want to mention that as we went on this journey, we internationalized, or we started internationalizing a word that is very close to our hearts now, Prajava, a Sri Lankan word which refers to community. But we kind of made a little tweak to it, and we went out and said this is a real lifestyle concept of Sri Lanka, where we this showcases how Sri Lankans get together, especially in crisis, in difficult times, to build better, build together, and evolve as communities. And our message was to Sri Lankans as well, what if business leaders use the power of our Prajava to build better in good times? Because this is very true in the Sri Lankan context. We become extraordinarily great in crisis, but not very much when things are great. So our message to the world was, here is this concept that reflects English Tea Shop's attitude to people and people's attitude, from farmers to our own people, to the product that they pack and to our presentation. And that's worked really well and been appreciated around the world. This is probably the most important bit in my presentation, because a lot of people think that going organic is, was the thing that changed English Tea Shop. It did, but did for a very different reason. So why did we go organic? When we started looking at this ethical, mindful consumer, we couldn't understand as to how we could operate out of a commonly shared auction system and, deliver a very differentiated message. I'll talk about the auction system, I guess, at the Q&A if I'm given a chance, because in this limited time, let me focus on, this very important concept. Because our focus was to offer something exclusive to that mindful consumer base. And also, we had to showcase that we were building people better. And we had to be sustainable. We had to bring sustainability to these people's lives in a different way. So I couldn't understand how a commonly shared auction platform would help us. So to date, I guess the most unparalleled coincidence in our business was the fact when someone mentioned the only way you can bypass all of this is go organic. So that is what we did. And a lot of people found it surprising initially, even now, that we went organic, not because we were experts in organic, whether in the ground, whether in the field, whether in agriculture, or even in marketing. But we went organic just to bypass the auction. And that solved a lot of issues for us. Obviously, this little expertise meant that we had to build things from scratch. And you can imagine what our conversations with our teams would have been like, because I was saying there is this comfort zone that we're moving out of. And we're going to kill this very successful business to build something from scratch, an entire ecosystem. And to add to that, Sri Lanka didn't have a lot of organic certified communities to really bank on. So we had to really build them from scratch and to get to where we are today. In doing that, we also realized that tea means a broader category, and Sri Lanka had a beautiful array of botanicals, herbs, and spices. And we wanted to marry them all because Sri Lanka was even colonized for that fact. So, and we found that the organic sector in herbs and botanicals and spices and flowers was far advanced. And there were some really authentic farmers. And I think, really rode along the journey with them. Going organic, obviously, made us solve a lot of other issues as well. A lot of sustainability ambitions, especially meeting SDGs, enhancing plant and animal biodiversity, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, improving soil fertility and water resources, and a series of other things that we take. I think when we initially entered, it was very clear that the organic market was also cluttered, was also busy. Brands like Clipper, Paka, Yogi were dominating the premium organic sectors. Where we got the initial appreciation or the chance was really the ethical approach, because that is what we were known for. And we scored very low for organic and sustainability as a whole, but we scored really high for being an ethical business, developing things from farm to our own business to the market. And also we kind of reinvented, we kind of rejuvenated the gifting market. We found a new niche because the organic shelves at that time looked very boring and bog standard, and with our very lively, colorful, very boldly celebratory designs and packaging, which was our way of projecting Sri Lanka's natural beauty. I think we got really expected or accepted into that market space. We kind of created it. And a major revamp we did in 2017-18 saw that we improved on the other facets, where we started scoring very high on the organic and sustainability credentials. And that saw us growing quite well into the main organic markets that we were initially lagging behind. Organic is just one of the ways. There are many other ways. I was just going through another, a UK brand, which is like 15% more premium than us, not organic. And I was trying to see as to what I can, learn and convey to you. Because I think this mindful consumer base is looking for very, very different things. It's very hard to do that, to approach them when you're all working off a commonly shared, auction platform. This looks a little theoretical, but let me tell you, this puts our entire ecosystem in one diagram. This is how we work. If you put all of our activities in 3 clusters, in product markets, in redefining business productivity and developing supply clusters, this is how it looked like. And this model that was developed by Professor Michael Porter and Mark Kramer and called it the creating shared value, helped us convert that ethical capitalism idea to a proper, framework as we grew. What it says is, at the very onset, the fact that companies should look at bringing sustainability to the core of things, not leaving it at the perimeter through CSR and other means. My job is not to undermine CSR or NGOs or governments or corporate philanthropy or individual philanthropy. My only message is there is a huge job that the private sector can do, the corporates of this world can do to reduce the world's inequalities and knowledge gaps, because we control larger part of the world's wealth. And that is exactly what this framework says. So very simply put, English Tea Shop's approach to redefining productivity or building new markets and developing supply clusters is all in a win-win relationship, where we invest in each of these aspects with a return in mind. But we don't really, this is not only for wealth distribution, this is for wealth creation, because what we guarantee is that we create more wealth right along the line, supply chain, from the farm to our own people through a plethora of measures that we live by and we measure and we connect to ensure that the sustainability is what is driving the competitive advantage, which is a very new thinking, because a lot of people talk of bringing sustainability to the epicenter of things, but this takes it to another level where you argue that your sustainability measures is what is giving you competitive advantage and what is also improving competitive advantage to everyone in your supply chain. And that's exactly what we had done. Just want to check how we are doing for timing. So the idea here is not for you to be able to read all of this. I'm just taking a snapshot of our annual integrated report, where I want to prove to you, or I want to showcase to you that we live by this. Every one of our 300 plus people, their job is to make sure that the sustainability measures and the business measures are built together, linked together, and they are measured together. And the successes in farms, successes in women entrepreneurship or female farming or growing harvest or growing land is all related to their competitiveness, and that relates to our competitiveness, and then obviously plays on to what we do in the marketplaces. We run on a 100% open book management basis, which is another topic for another day, which supports and helps us run the business in this fashion. A little bit about the market. We're in about 25,000 storefronts, mostly in the premium sector, because we don't work with low-end supermarkets and discounters in 55 countries, representing luxury, gourmet, natural and organic stores, and growing. I think it's not the number that matters. We are making really good inroads to markets that Sri Lanka hasn't really, gotten into in the history. So we are looking into those premium organic markets and growing into the future. We won a series of awards. I was just asked by Dushni before I walked in about the awards. I guess we just focus on sustainability and transparency. That's all we focus on. And we won a number of awards for, including the Queen's Award in the UK this year for our sustainability approach and for our transparency, becoming the world's best open book management company this year. So a series of awards in that, regards. In closing, I want to reiterate that Sri Lanka can do it. Sri Lanka can move our traditional sectors to more value add and to branding. I think there is a huge role that the private sector has to play in making the right compromises and the right investments, and also the government obviously has to create the environment. And hopefully, I'll pause here and hopefully take it on at the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Suranga.